the Phoenix Mercury shook things up this offseason, making a lot of moves. Really busy in the offseason. We saw a lot of the players, leave. We saw a lot of new players coming in. This is looking like a new team for the most part, outside of Kalia Copper, who's here, who was on the team last year. But they brought in Fatu Sabli and Alyssa Thomas. BG is now with the Atlanta Dream, as mentioned in our Dream preview. Sophie Cunningham is with the Indiana Fever. Diana Taurasi is officially retired. So it's like it's a new start. It's a new era for the Phoenix Mercury, man. But definitely still a team that can compete um with the talent that they have on this roster. And I mean, I feel like they look into this route. I wouldn't put them in the contender talks quite yet, but I mean, I feel like this team with the personnel that they have, they can go out there and compete with some contenders and to make things a little hard for them, man. Tariq, how do you feel about this Phoenix Mercury team?
Um, Definitely an interesting fit of players. Like you said, they acquired Satu Sabli, Alyssa Thomas. They also acquired Kalani Brown and Sevgi Uzin for and sent out Becca Allen, Tasha Cloud, Sophie Cunningham, um, Makia Herbert Harrigan, the number 12 pick and the number 19 pick. So they did not have a pick in the draft this year, which is why a lot of their players have come from free agency and overseas. Like you said, Diana Taurasi retired, so this will be the first season that Phoenix doesn't have Diana Taurasi on the roster since I want to say 2004 or 2003. I guess would be the season that they didn't have, or last season that they didn't have her on the team.
Yeah.
Um, they signed Celeste Taylor, who played with them last year. Um, they signed Sammy Whitcomb, Anna Makarat, Lexi Held, Catherine Westbeld, Kitia Laska, Merjanatu Musa, Monique, I think that's Aku or Akoa Makani, Shyla Hill, and Alexis Prince. They also signed Helena Puello, Megan McConnell, Julia Aro, and Tamara Poindexter. They suspended the contract of Julia Aro for a personal decision. She had just recently played at Michigan State. Um, not, I tried to look more into it. There wasn't really more besides just personal decision. Um, so I mean, it's a new look team that has a lot of star power. I don't know what the fits are going to look like in terms of cohesiveness and chemistry, especially with two bigger forward slash wings like Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabali. I think both of their skill sets can work together. It's kind of similar to her and Dewana Bonner. I think Satu is a little bit more skilled or has a little bit more talent in terms of putting the ball on the floor and making plays for other people, as well as Alyssa Thomas. So I think that could be really big for them. Um, so I think they're probably thinking they don't need like a great point guard, but I do think they need consistency there and a point guard that can shoot the ball, just to help them with spacing and things like that. Um, I mean, outside of the main three, there's a lot of questions around this team. It's a big three, but we've seen it in years past in both the WNBA and the NBA is just because you have a big three, you have three really talented players who are all star, all WNBA level talent, doesn't mean that everything else will come together well. We don't really know who the starting center is right now. Could be Kalani Brown. Um, we don't know for sure. We don't know who the starting point guard is going to be right now. It could be Celeste Taylor. Could be um, could be Sevi Uzin. Um, and then we also don't know like who exactly is going to stay on the roster so far. We're recording this on May 6th, so I don't think Phoenix has made any cuts yet. Um, so everyone that is there for the moment will be at least talked about.
Hmm.
I think Kitty Alaska could have a big role. Um, she was drafted a few years back. Um, can shoot the ball really well. Can play different positions. Can play off the ball and with the ball in her hands. She does a lot of things that would fit next to a player like Satu. Catherine Westbuzz played in Turkey last year. I'm curious to see if she'll make the team because she's made strides ever since she left Notre Dame. I want to say that was 2018, maybe 2019. Um, but I think the most important thing, the biggest thing for this team is Satu's health. I think if Satu is healthy, she has the chances of being an MVP in this league. She has the chances of, or heavy chance of being all WNBA again. Um, and gives them a chance or gives them more expectations of feeling like a contender. When you have an Alyssa Thomas who is, I would say, a floor raiser for sure. I don't know if she's necessarily like she's going to raise your ceiling. I think that's where Satu would come in. I think a team of Kalia Copper and Alyssa Thomas can get you to the playoffs, and I think with a healthy Satu, that can get you past the first round of the playoffs. And then once you get there, it's just who's going to make better decisions, who's going to be ready for the moment, all these different kinds of things. Their strengths, I would say, is the star talent, and then their wing play. Beside, like with Ka can be considered a wing, but she's really a two guard. AT and Satu are both considered forwards, but they can also play the wing. Their weaknesses, I would say, probably the center depth, guard questions, chemistry at this point. Again, it's May 6th. WNBA experience of the other players around the big three, and Kalani Brown, and Sammy Whitcomb, of course. But um, another thing that I would feel like at this point is a weakness is coaching. We haven't really seen Nate Tibbetts do a great job of coaching this team. I feel like, or coaching the team that he had last year. Granted, there was some injuries and things didn't go exactly the way they expected, but they had a lot of talent on that team last year, and they were never able to be consistent. They had Sophie Cunningham, Natasha Cloud, Brittany Griner, Kalia Copper, uh, DT. Like they had a really good team last year, and things didn't. And they also Becca Allen too. So you're looking at all those things, and you're like, all right, you got a lot of talent, and they were just never able to put it together. I
Yeah.
don't know if that was coaching. I don't know if that was just the roster. I don't know if it
Hmm.
was, just health and things like that, but they were never able to put it together the way they should have been. And I think Nate Tibbetts didn't put players in the best positions they could have been. And hopefully this year he does more of that. Um, you know, we didn't see a ton from him before he became a head coach
Yeah.
of this team. So there was always going to be a spotlight. His associate head coach is Christy Tolliver, who was one of the best coaches and one of the best player development coaches that we've seen in both the NBA and the WNBA. So
Hmm.
there's always going to be that that big eye on him. Like, hey, y'all went with this guy instead of someone else that could have taken the spot. So I feel like this is a year where even though it's just year two, there's going to be a magnifying glass on him just because you're going to want to see what kind of things he did to his offensive system. How is he going to integrate Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabally? How is he going to integrate all of these different players that they've brought in to play around them? Um, so yeah, that would probably be my biggest question mark for them right now. Besides Satu's health, which she's been fairly healthy the last 7 to 8 months. I don't think she had any injuries and unrivaled. I could be wrong. Um, and then she didn't go play overseas or anything. Um, from the gap from unrivaled because some players did go from unrivaled to go play overseas and now they're going into the W season like Kevin McBride. Um, so I'm hoping for a fully healthy season from there, but then everything else, I would say like that would be on the coach to try to blend together perfectly, and I want to see if he's able to do it.
Yeah, you mentioned they had a lot of inconsistencies last season, man, and I really hope they are consistent this season. But I mean, you bring in a new group that kind of doesn't work in your favor as far as consistency because this group hasn't seen a lot of time with each other. Um, Last year, I mean, I agree. Like, I don't see how you have the talent you have in that roster, and it just seems like I don't know. It's like a spinning wheel of. all right, what type of team do we want to be today? You know, do you want to be a fringe contender, or do we want to play like we're playing for the lottery? Like it would be weird because they would play up the competition. Like they gave Vegas a run for their money a couple of times. They gave um teams like the Liberty and the Lynx like a battle, but they would struggle against the Atlanta Storm like randomly during the season, or struggle against the Dallas Wings or teams on the bottom half of the league. Like it was just weird to see how they operated last season. But hopefully they can fix some things this season. I know Saw Two is hell of a player. They call it a unicorn for a reason. Highly skilled player on the offensive end, great defender. I think this team has a lot of good defense, you know, but Saw Two, AT, and Kalia Copper. Um, but them being all kind of wings, like you got to think of your perimeter protection. I mean, those players can play out on the perimeter, but I think once they get the point guard position, like what, um, not specialized, like get what's the word I'm looking for, bro? Um, not structure. Once they get it, I don't know. Like once they get that established, I don't know why I couldn't find the word established. But once they get the point guard position established and see how this team runs like fully, then we'll get a better idea, get a better sense of how this team will look defensively. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think one thing, mm, I think them not having the identity or having established point and having established big will be like weaknesses for them. Things that because you got teams across the league that already have, you know, 1 through 5 already established or have a good like pick for their wing guard, good pick for their big. And this is a big league. Like the last like what I see you had Stewie, you had Asia, I want to say Sil. I'm trying to think who all were the last like couple MVPs, but the last few MVPs because it's been between Asia and Stewie the last couple of years. Um, and then you got like
Even Joe
I
Don's a
mean,
forward.
John Quell, she's a 4. Um, and even Alyssa Thomas, I mean, she's a 3, but she plays big. And it's
Right.
like, I mean, I felt like she was robbed of her MVP a couple seasons ago. But I mean, the game is a big game, you know. Like we don't really see a lot of guards dominate in this league. I mean, I feel like are about to see a transition to that with Paige and Caitlin and Sabrina, but it's still this current moment everything run through the bigs on both sides of the ball. So
Yeah.
they're definitely going to need some help at the big position because of how the league is structured or just how certain teams are in this league. But um, my main thing is how quick they find their identity. You know, because you got a player like Satu Sadli coming in, and you got Alyssa Thomas coming in, play with a Kalia Copper who are all stars. Um,
Mhm.
how does that work out? You know, like how do you make that transition smooth from playing with a team last year that should have worked out better, um, and you had a sense of identity for a little minute, but now you see you know a little just a tad bit smaller um, as far as your lineups go, but really I want to. I mean, I feel like with this team in this personnel, we're gonna see a lot of inside game, like within the arc. I mean, because I know Satu can shoot, but you got Alyssa Thomas who's just drive to the cup, not really a shooter. Muscles her way down to the basket. You got Kyle who's a slasher who can shoot as well, but we all know her game is best going to the cup. And really the rest of this team. I mean, you got Celeste Taylor who can shoot. Hopefully, she makes it through on the final roster. Um, and just a matter of like filling in certain pieces of this team. I feel with this training camp lineup, but yeah, what is your how I want to know how fast they find out their identity and what their identity is as a team on the offensive end.
Yeah, I think they could. I think they might try AT at the point, or like just like
Hmm.
like a couple years ago. I want to say maybe it was 2020, maybe 2021, where Braun played the point and they just
Like a
played
point forward
around
type of
him.
thing. Yeah.
Right. I think they could do that where they start like Sammy Whitcomb, Ka, Satu, Kalani Brown, just
Hmm.
so they're spacing. And Alyssa Thomas is not a player that's like trying to go for her shot every time she comes down the court. Like I would say she's a
No.
pass first point
Yeah.
forward. Um, and I think this might be the best kind of style for her is like being a player that can dish off. I think when she was at her best, there was multiple scorers around her. I think last year was the first year that there was like, yeah, Dewana can score, but like she really had to like spoon feed a lot of people, and then there was a lot of times where she would have to like try to go force her way to go get a bucket.
Yeah.
Like when they had Courtney Williams and Dewana Bonner, um, both on the court at the same time, that was two different players that could get their own shot. And then she played with John Quell. So she played really well. I wouldn't say really well, but her and John Quell did well enough to get to a final.
Yeah.
They played well enough to get to conference finals on the same team. And I think Satu is easier to play with just because she's more finesse than John Quell is. John Quell and Alyssa Thomas at that point in time had really liked to do the same thing, and they also had Bree Jones who also
Hmm.
liked to do the same thing. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
John Quell could step out and score from the perimeter, but she would rather be in the post. I feel like, so I think I think they can make it work. I don't think it'll take too long for them to get the chemistry going. Alyssa Thomas and Kyle played together in on the USA team, so they have a little bit of familiarity. Satu and Kalani Brown played together in Dallas the last couple of years, so they have some familiarity there. Sammy Whitcomb can play with pretty much anybody. And then I think it just comes down to what other players do they keep on the roster.
Yeah.
Because at this current point, they have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 19, 20 people on the roster right now, I think. Unless I counted that wrong. 3, 6, 12, 15,
19. They got 19 listed
19.
on the W website or on the W
So
app.
So 19 players on the roster. Obviously, you got to
Gotta get
cut
that
down at
down to
least seven.
12.
And then if they're wanting to leave a spot open, they would cut it down to 11. So there's a lot of players that are on this roster right now that will not be on the final roster. So we don't know exactly what that rotation is going to look like, but I think there's a way to play Alyssa Thomas at that pseudo one to start the game, and then throughout the game you could kind of play AT and Satu at different times so that you still have one of them out there. So like maybe Alyssa Thomas or Satu plays with the bench, and then kind of similar to like what the Cavs did this year was like Donovan and Jared Allen played together. I think it was Donovan and Jared Allen, or maybe it was Darius Garland and Jared Allen. Like there was two sets of those players, so maybe there's Satu and Ka play together once after the first kind of stretch of the first quarter, and then AT plays with the bench or whatever. I think that could help to help with chemistry and just everybody being able to be uh, themselves and not having to dial back everything because they're going to want Ka to still be aggressive, but I know she's going to be she still needs to be aggressive because Alyssa Thomas isn't a score first kind of player. So her and Satu will probably should be the leading scorers on the team, and then you go from there and figure out everything else when it comes to distributing shots and how you get to those shots and things like that.
Yeah. Outlook. I don't see why this team doesn't make the playoffs this year. There shouldn't be a reason. I think they're for sure like I'll say anywhere between 5 to 7, 8 at the worst, obviously. But yeah, with Kalia Copper, Satu, AT, Sammy, um, yes, I feel like they're better than the bottom half of the league, but not quite there where they're competing and contending quite yet. Uh, if they're able to keep this core around for like another 2 seasons, I feel like they're right there.
Yeah. We just have
It's a
to
matter of bringing in the
we
right
just have to see what
pieces.
their final roster will look like or
Yeah,
surrounding pieces.
yup. But yeah, but anyways, man, whatever happens with the Phoenix Mercury, we'll be here to break it down here on Multiplicity Media YouTube channel. Yeah, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Appreciate y'all.